Hello there, my name is Alexander and this is the Italian Screenwriter. Today we're going to talk about Dune, so let's drive right into the woods and check out the latest film by Denis Villeneuve. Dune isn't a movie that lives on its own. This film, written by Denis Villeneuve, Eric Roth, and John Spates, is the first of a two-part adaptation of Frank Herbert's novel. But how did they adapt the story from the novel? Where does this movie end, and where will the second one begin? And why does it have the non-ending ending it has? That same ending that has brought many people to complain about how it suddenly ends abruptly with no climax and a to-be-continued effect.
You're one of us now. A life for a life.
Dune is about the journey of Paul Atreides. And talking about journey, we must start our analysis by asserting that this is a hero's journey kind of story. To better understand mythological structure of the journey of the archetypal hero, two works come to help. The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell and The Writer's Journey, Mythic Structure for Writers by Christopher Vogler. In this case, to better understand Dune, even though Campbell's work is applicable, we are going to utilize Vogler's work as it is more straightforward for a YouTube video. The two works have similarities. Vogler takes the concepts explained by Campbell and mainly makes them more accessible to screenwriters and storytellers through a 12-stage journey model. Many iconic movies follow this kind of story structure. Harry Potter's quest to becoming a wizard, Luke Skywalker's mission to destroy the evil empire, free the galaxy from tyranny and become a Jedi, Neo's adventure to fulfill his role as the One and free humanity, Peter Parker's journey to accept his role as Spider-Man, Simba's road to reclaim his throne in the Pride Lands, Frodo's campaign to destroy the ring in Mount Doom and bring an end to Sauron's reign of terror once and for all. It's a story we've seen many times over. An unlikely hero embarks on a journey that has been thrust upon them. Along the way, the hero makes some allies and enemies, maybe even fall in love. At the outset, they become stronger and wiser than they were when they embarked on the journey. No matter what the genre or setting of the story is, the central narrative follows the hero's journey structure. This is known in literary circles as the monomyth, or in pop culture as the hero's journey.
What's in the box?
Pain.
What screenwriters Villeneuve, Spates, and Roth do was divide the book in two movies, and what we see in this film most probably is the first act of Paul Atreides' hero's journey. From his first stages while in the ordinary world to when he crosses the first threshold. The second one will most probably cover the second and third acts of his arc, narrating his journey through the special world and his return to the ordinary world with the elixir. The first half of this movie is the setup of his story, and works to give us all the necessary information to then start his journey. During the setup, Paul is shown as a willing hero, eager to protect his friends, to dive into action, and to learn. He is kept back though by his father Leto, and therefore not given a chance to drive the story forward through action. The protagonist starts out as passive during this first half, is shown full of doubts, of hesitations, and insecure. He is though presented as somewhat as a flawless hero and hard to empathize with. The writers try to connect more with the audience by adding his fears and insecurities and the warning of the Reverend Mother that Paul isn't ready. But these flaws do not hold him back or add any meaningful consequences to the story. It simply takes the form of asking his father and Duncan to be sent on a military mission on Arrakis to prevent his dreams from happening but being shut down, therefore giving his flaws very few consequences. So overcoming them isn't as powerful as it could have been.
Dreams make good stories. But everything important happens when we're awake. Because that's when we make things happen.
During this first half, Paul Atreides is showed in his ordinary world. We see how it frames the hero and sets the story in motion. It works to hook the viewer, set the tone for the story, hint where it's going, and get across a mass information without slowing the pace. This is where Paul comes from, which is highly in contrast to the special world of Arrakis and of the Fremen, to his road to become their messiah, which he will experience in the second movie. The hero's problems and conflicts are already present. They are just waiting to be activated as soon as the work of introducing the main character and setting is done. This happens at the film's midpoint, which is when House Atreides falls during the night and Paul's father Leto is killed by hand of House Harkonnen with the help of the Emperor himself. This beat changes the trajectory of both protagonist and story and works as catalyst or call to adventure using Vogler's terminology to the macro structure of the two films signed by Villeneuve. It raises the dramatic question: will Paul grow to fulfill his destiny and lead the Fremen to avenge his family and overthrow the Emperor?
Remove her gag.
Shut up.
It gets the story rolling by disrupting the comfort of the hero's ordinary world, presenting a challenge or quest that must be undertaken. The call throws the ordinary world off balance and establishes the stakes. The film does not summon the hero with temptation, nor delivers a message through an external character such as a mentor like in Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. It is brought to Paul in the form of loss and subtraction by House Harkonnen. As mentioned before, Paul Atreides is not a reluctant hero. He is a willing hero. Therefore, there is no refusal of the call. He accepts and even seeks out the call to adventure. He takes control of the situation as soon as he is taken hostage with his mother, right after the call to adventure. Paul drives the story forward by being an active character with a clear objective. When, thanks to his wits, Paul manages to take over the Thopter, giving himself and his mother a chance to survive in the desert. From a narrative standpoint, this produces a more engaging second half.
There would be general warfare between the great houses and the Emperor. Chaos across the Imperium.
And suppose I presented the Emperor with an alternative to chaos. And the Emperor has no sons, and his daughters are yet to marry.
You'd make a play for the throne.
After Paul and his mother Jessica survive their first escape, also thanks to Duncan, Idaho, the dangers of the desert, and their first encounter with the sandworm, they manage to find, thanks to Paul's powers, a tribe of Fremen led by Stilgar. Here the hero encounters two important characters, Shani, which will become his love interest and drive the B story of the second film, and Stilgar himself, who might serve the story as the hero's mentor. This would mean that the first encounter would represent the beat that Vogler calls meeting with the mentor, which occurs after the call to adventure but before the crossing of the first threshold, which is exactly when this scene happens. But in order to be sure that Stilgar is Paul's mentor, we have to finish watching the whole story, therefore both Villeneuve's movies. Paul immediately accepts the invite to join the tribe and to follow them, but as soon as he seems to commit wholeheartedly to the adventure, Jamis, a fearful and skilled fighter of the siege, intervenes to oppose Paul. He invokes the Umtal rule, demanding to test the hero through combat. But why would Jamis, or any other character who isn't the antagonist, at this point go out of their way to block the hero's journey without any particular personal motivation? Because this is the moment of the story that Vogler calls crossing the threshold, and Jamis represents the threshold guardian archetype.
I don't believe you're the Lisan al-Gaib. But I want you to die with honor.
It takes a separate moment of decision for the hero to overcome any resistance and fully commit to the adventure, and the Guardian blocks their way to test the hero's commitment by opposing them before their adventure has even begun. The hero must prove his worthiness to be in the game by defeating the Guardian, who also poses a dramatic question for the audience. Is Paul truly heroic enough to face and survive the adventure? The doubt is more interesting than knowing that the hero will rise to every occasion. An extra layer of tension is added to this dramatic question when we find out during the fight that Paul has never in his life killed someone.
Paul has never killed a man.
In the Umtal rule, there is no yielding and the fight ends when one of the two fighters die. As much as Paul is sought the call to adventure throughout the film, here he must truly prove his worthiness by overcoming his fears and doubts and killing a man for the first time in his life. The killing of Jamis is the literal crossing the threshold for Paul. That special courage represents his leap of faith and cross of the gateway that separates the ordinary world from the special world. After this act, there is no turning back. After he kills Jamis, he is fully part of the Fremen tribe and his journey takes off. This moment represents the end of Act 1 and the beginning of Act 2 of the macro structure of the overall story, where Paul leaves the ordinary world and enters the mysterious and exciting special world after he finally proves his worth and courage.
My road leads into the desert. I can see it.
This is where the adventure begins in earnest and where the first film ends, leaving to the second film the task to narrate the hero's journey through the special world and his return to the ordinary world with the elixir, Acts 2 and 3 of his arc. Shani's last words before the credits are a promise that more is to come in the special world. Tougher trials, stronger enemies, new rules, deeper fears, more dangerous menaces, and where the prices of mistakes are far, far higher.
This is only the beginning.
So that is the story structure of the movie Dune. If you enjoyed this video and wish to see more, please subscribe to my channel, leave a like or a comment. Every form of support is highly appreciated. That is all for today. Hope to see you soon.